Mohammed Jawad was captured when he was a teenager. This is someone who grew up in a refugee camp, is functionally illiterate, and he was captured and accused of participating in a grenade attack against 2 US service members and their Afghan interpreter. He was forced into a confession under threat of death, and that became the basis for the US decision to prosecute him for war crimes.
He was hooded and thrown down a flight of stairs. Once he arrived at Guantanamo, he attempted to commit suicide, and a behavioral psychologist decided that that would be a good time to subject Mr. Jawad to sleep deprivation. He had only known imprisonment and mistreatment since he was 16 or 17. So you can imagine why he would try to commit suicide and why he was vulnerable at that point. In fact, before the interrogations, he was crying and asking for his mother. When I realized that I could not fulfill my ethical obligations as a prosecutor, I resigned, and I resigned out of conscience.
The New York Times called Mr. Jawad's case emblematic of everything that is wrong with the military commission system. For example, his is a case that is predicated on evidence obtained through torture and coerced evidence. What our motion does is to challenge the basis for the government's detention of Mr. Jawad, as well as its basis for prosecuting him. When President Obama instructed that military commission proceedings be halted, it was a critical first step in an end to a deeply unconstitutional process, one that should never, ever be used again. Now, Mr. Jawad's case is about the adequacy of the evidence that the US has to continue to detain him. For the government to continue to fight independent federal court review of the basis for Mr. Jawad's detention is ludicrous in face of the fact that the Attorney General himself said during his nomination confirmation hearings that the military commission system does not comply with due process. Mr. Jawad's former prosecutor, Lieutenant Colonel Van de Velde, served in the military operations in Afghanistan and Iraq. His 14-page declaration on behalf of Mr. Jawad in support of his habeas petition is a truly extraordinary document. He says that had I been returned to Afghanistan or Iraq, and had I encountered Mohammed Jawad in either one of those hostile lands where 2 of my friends have been killed in action, I have no doubt at all, none, that Mr. Jawad would pose no threat whatsoever to me, his former prosecutor and now repentant persecutor. 6 years is long enough for a boy of 16 to serve in virtual solitary confinement in a distant land for reasons he may never fully understand. Mr. Jawad's former prosecutor is asking the court to set him free. There should be no question left that that's exactly what the United States should do.